Hundreds of rejections, failed deals, a dwindling following, and a mental breakdown. I was broke, clinically depressed, and ready to give it all up. Not just my career, everything. Then we started Create.Repeat. Create.Repeat is a message to all creatives. Don't give up. I get it. I've lived it. I almost gave up too. That's what this podcast is about. It's our mission to make creatives feel less alone and inspire them to keep going. So that's what we're going to do. Keep going. On today's episode, I'll be sitting down with my wife and co-founder, Morgan Evans. We'll dive into our journey as creatives, discuss pivoting from your dreams, and explore the concept of evolving or dying. Welcome to Create.Repeat.
Voices in my head telling me it's now or never. Just turned 31, I can't deny the pressure. Even at my best, I know that I can do better. Running out of time, but how the hell can you measure your life? Lately I've been thinking, then I wonder why. Fuck a glass ceiling, bro, my diamond in the sky. You can have it all, just not at the same time. That's compromise, and that's by design. Sometimes it's dark clouds.
Wow. Hi. We're doing this.
We're doing this.
We're doing a podcast.
We are. We're never going to get this first moment back.
Yeah. This is going to be the worst it'll ever be.
That's my saying.
Yeah.
Especially in business. It's just the first of everything. But I did get a little teary-eyed.
You did?
Yeah, I'm really proud of you.
Oh, that's sweet. I'm
You're
proud of
welcome.
you.
Thanks.
Today's theme we're going to be talking about is evolve or die.
Well, let's do it.
We made a post on our Instagram. For those of you who don't know, we have an Instagram that's called Create.Repeat, where we make these inspirational blurbs and sayings for creatives to keep them inspired. And we made this one that was actually inspired by you, titled Evolve or Die. And you wrote, "Evolution is how you stay relevant and impactful. Remember, evolution isn't optional, it's essential. Embrace change, adapt with intention, and let the journey guide you to new heights in your creative endeavors." Evolve or die. Where did that come from?
That's a bar. That's a great little passage.
Yeah, you wrote that.
I wrote that. That came from me. Evolve or die. It just sticks in your mouth. Evolve or die. I wrote in there, evolution isn't optional. So we don't get a choice.
Isn't that sort of like what we're doing right now? Like with Create.Repeat, not to get too meta, but like we're evolving from our Instagram page,
100%.
Right? Like we're kind of stepping out there and making a podcast and a YouTube channel and just trying something new because we need to keep growing. We don't want to die.
We don't want to die. We have to put ourselves out there in a whole different way now.
It's scary, wouldn't you say? Are you scared?
I'm terrified.
I'm terrified too.
I'm terrified. It's so fun to write things and get engagement and just know in the back of your head you did it and no one knows you did.
Yeah. That was something that was very intentional when we started Create.Repeat was we wanted to create an anonymous account.
Yeah.
We both have been in front of the camera before. We both have an internet presence from a past time. And this was something that we really wanted to kind of hide behind.
Right.
And so
you just want to like create without any like attachments. Like I feel like creating like not from a place of ego is so freeing. And especially when you're like coming from a season of feeling so burned out, just creating, repeating, and barfing it out into the world and no one knows it's you is the most exhilarating feeling because it doesn't matter who you are. It's just it's for the community. And I feel like making Create.Repeat posts, and especially again, like you're the one that designs everything and like dreaming up things in your head and you have the ability to create it is like it's a superpower. And that's why it's so fun to work with you because it feels like it's limitless. Anything we want to do, we can do. Between the two of our brains, it'll happen somehow, some way.
It's been a really weird thing with having Create.Repeat take off to the point that where it's at, where people actually really connect with it. Because I think how we started it was very much just putting out what we wanted to put out and not trying to do it for the likes or do it for the shares, but just kind of making it as a visual diary. At least that's what we started, right?
100%.
And I think this idea of like evolve or die is a really interesting concept because you're going from taking something that was a passion project and turning it into a thing, turning it into a company, turning it to more content, a business.
Yeah.
And that's like a really scary thing to do. You know, I don't know if people are going to like this. I think if I was the audience, I don't know if I would like it.
No, I don't know. This is the Wizard of Oz moment.
It's weird.
We're pulling the curtain back. It's us. Hi.
Yeah. And it's like weird when we were talking about this on the car ride over here, how sometimes you don't want to know who's behind something. And it's a little similar to like when you read a book and you read a character and you picture this character in your brain and then the movie comes out and it's nothing like you expected. You know, you're like, oh, wow, that's what Hermione looks like. Terrible reference.
Yeah, sure. It's okay though.
Yeah.
I think there's power in owning your voice. And that's what we're up to right now.
That's what we're doing. We're living it out and we're here to just, inspire other people to do this. That's what our goal is, right? Like we want to be able to just show people that like you can do this as well. However, whatever aspect of your life, whatever kind of art form, creative journey that you're on, if this can just encourage one person to move a step further, I think we're doing our job.
1,000,000%. And I think that's kind of why Evolve or Die is born, because it's something that I feel in my bones every single day, where I think as creatives, a lot of times we're so quick to label ourselves and be like, I'm going to pursue this one thing and that's who I am. That's what I do. And I often feel that label puts us in a box and we're unable to see beyond the label. And being willing, I don't even think it's willing to evolve. It's not a choice. And I think as artists and creatives, we have this amazing, we're like vessels, right? We're vessels to like messages and perspectives and the ways in which people have the ability to see the world. And it's not always going to be the same message. And our bodies can't change, but our craft continuously changes. And I think like butterflies are my thing. Obsessed.
They are.
They're my thing.
Since the day I've known her, she's been obsessed with butterflies.
They're a part of our wedding. It is what it is. I feel like though, butterflies, the meaning has continuously changed for me. And I think in this season, butterflies represent the artist to me. It's like different versions of myself visiting me, because I do think as creatives, we're called to the process of a butterfly, right? We're called to destruction. We're called to the reconstruction. We're called to rebirth. And I think art, if you see it like butterflies, it just becomes this beautiful thing where you're like, release it, let it go, evolve or die. And it's like butterflies have no choice. And I think the hardest thing about being a creative is we're called to repetitively go through that process. It's not just a one and done. I'm a beautiful storyteller now and it's done. It's like, nope, you're going to have to die to that version of yourself again and keep evolving. And there's so many layers to evolve or die for me. But in the world and like I think to our audience who we're talking to, it might be people whose knuckles are turning white, holding on to a version of themselves or a past success version of themselves. And in order to move on, you got to let that go.
You got to let it go.
Got to let it go.
And that's something that we are currently learning. I like really want to like point this out, that everything that we post on Create.Repeat, everything that we're talking about, it's something that we're doing in the middle of it. We're not talking from the top of the mountaintops. We're talking from the valley with the rest of the people going through it and just trying to process in real time what we're going through. Something about like with our posts that we've made on Create.Repeat, it's been always a lot of times it's what am I feeling in that moment? What am I feeling? Is it sometimes there's a quote that I've seen that strikes me. Sometimes I wake up and I feel terrible and I don't want to do it. There's other days where I'm super on fire and I'll crank out 6 or 7 posts and just ready to go. And it's everything in between. But we really want to make sure that we're on this journey as well. And I think anyone who's figured like says that they have all the answers, they don't have the answers.
No. And I think that's why it rings authentic though, because it is. This is all coming from the well of who we are deep down. And I think the community of Create.Repeat, that's why we wanted to start Create.Repeat. We wanted to have a place where people felt seen and heard and honestly just valued.
Yeah.
Not based on what they put out though. You know what I'm saying? Like the soul of an artist.
Yeah. So we want to take this whole first episode for you guys to get to know us a little bit, because maybe you've followed us on Instagram, or maybe you're just discovering us on podcast platform on YouTube. But we thought the best way for you to learn more about us is actually through the things that we've created. So what we've done is we've found 3 different blurbs that we have written or we've been inspired by from what we posted on Create.Repeat. And we're going to go through those and use that as a way to explain our journey thus far. Look at me using the word thus.
That was wild.
Yeah, I'm
something about
myself.
a mic and some lights.
Yeah,
it's
just
like
you get a microphone and you just start saying words like
you're
thus.
a scholar.
Yeah. So I would love for you to go first. I think you've picked your first phrase, and this is actually something that is sort of a family motto for us.
Yes, it is. One of my favorite posts on Create.Repeat ever is make more of what you want to see. And I feel like that was one of the very early posts we've done. We've done a few reincarnations of it.
I think we've actually done create more of what you want to see, but
That's true.
That's more for branding purposes, because it's Create.Repeat, not make repeat, which someone don't get that username and rip us off.
Opportunity lost.
Yeah.
In my notes here, I put make. So maybe that's just on me.
No.
But no, create more of what you want to see. I feel like this is...
What does that mean to you? What is create more of what you want to see? Like, where does that come from?
I feel like it just comes from being an artist and wanting to, I feel like in the beginning of Create.Repeat, we wanted to create a community that supported each other, right? We wanted to support creative friends. We wanted to be more accepting of mental health. We wanted to create a thriving energy. And I feel like for me personally, create more of what you want to see came in a time that honestly was the worst, which 2020, hello, that was the worst for everyone.
It was terrible for everybody.
That's just like a tale as old as time. So we don't need to bash that over the head.
But we're going
to, okay? And that saying though was born then. And in this time, that saying came from an opportunity to pivot in my life. I feel like it was a random Tuesday in 2020. To set the stage, I wanted to be an actress my entire life.
Hence her saying, set the stage.
Let me set the stage. Hence the accent. Lame. Okay, anyways. But wanted to be an actress my whole life. Kindergarten through 8th grade, went to a performing arts school, pursued it in high school, went on to college, AO, where I met you. Mm-hmm. But was pursuing theater there as well. And after college, graduated. Again, like theater was my entire identity, my whole life, acting, storytelling. I loved every part of it.
And she's not just like a theater kid who's like, I grew up theater. Like she's really good. She's got the Kristen Chenoweth pipes to her.
Thank you. A little musical theater.
Yeah, a little musical theater. Like you were really good at it. Like you actually had a shot at it. You got scholarships to go to school.
I did.
You were the lead in pretty much every show that I saw you in. So
yes,
you're very good.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You're still very good.
Well, every
time you sing, I cry.
That's really sweet.
That's true.
But yes, there's a lot wrapped up in that. Graduated college and my parents said, we'll pay for 1 month's of rent and that's it. And you're on your own if you want to stay in Los Angeles. And I wanted nothing more than to stay in Los Angeles. And so I was working 3 different jobs, hustling, working every single day of the week. And theater and acting, like, again, I was going to some auditions. I hated the audition process in Los Angeles so much. I thought it was just nothing like anything I had experienced. And I definitely kind of just stopped. Mm-hmm. I wasn't doing it. I was just focused on like paying rent. And then 2019, I got cast in a community theater production.
Elf, the musical.
Shout out Simi Valley. Like, again, old me would have never done something like this, but I needed this so bad. And I mean, again, as creatives, when you can get a high off of something, like you just need to do it. So I did this musical. From that, I got an opportunity to be on a cartoon, which was so sick. And then I was able to get representation from a really amazing musical theater agent who would like get me an audition for Wicked and all of the things I've ever wanted
Like it was
to do.
starting to happen. Like
Oh,
we
it
were
was
really like
happening.
preparing. We even talked about like maybe moving to New York and maybe
I was in
like
dance
really going.
classes.
Yeah,
okay?
she took dance classes.
I was doing pas de bourrées.
And if I will say, like, if there's one weakness, it's maybe dancing.
Oh, it's definitely dancing.
Okay, I was being
I
kind.
did 2 time steps and tap and had shin splints for 11 days. Like it was horrible. So any hoozle, okay? So that whole thing happens. It's building up heat. We're feeling it. Then again, all of this is happening December 2019. And 2020, we have a big New Year's Eve party. We're living it up. We are popping champagne. I'm very big on New Year's resolutions. I
Very big.
journal. I manifest. I believe in them so much. I've gotten you very hooked on this thing.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Our whole life is based on
I
New
used
Year's
to
resolutions.
think New Year's resolutions were just kind of BS.
Guess what?
And now
This is a New Year's resolution.
yeah, Create.Repeat is a New Year's resolution. So
The podcast specifically.
sure.
Whatever. Okay. But anyways, I'm like 2020 is my year. Musical theater, acting, it's all happening. I felt like fire blazing in my bones. I knew it was going to happen. And as we all know, it did not happen.
Something happened.
Oh, something happened and it did burn through my bones and it was not what I thought it was. And I'm like, did I melt down?
Because also like we got married in October of 2019 and you had just quit your job as well.
Yeah.
And this was becoming something I had I had a good job where I could support both of us at the time.
Absolutely.
And we were going to make a run.
Yeah, you gave me the okay. And I felt like, again, I'd been in survival mode the entire time I was in Los Angeles. And it was just one of those things where I was like, I can finally like do what I need to do. I can take the acting classes I need to. I can run the run.
Yeah.
And I felt that support from you. And again, when 2020 happened, one of the most harrowing nights I feel like of my life is you sitting me down and us having just a really, really honest conversation of like, what now? What do you think you can do with the skill set you have, and how can we pivot through this? And I don't think anyone in my entire life has asked me that question before. I don't think I've ever been faced with a question that I was like, the answer that comes from this conversation, I don't think I at the time understood the gravity pull it would have on the rest of my life, because that question literally led us to this table right now. And it's like, I feel like, sorry, I almost got choked up. It's just such a crazy thing for someone to ask you like what your entire life purpose has been. And maybe that's not the answer anymore.
I remember that was a difficult conversation for me to even have, because I was also going through that in my own personal life.
Of course.
But I remember asking you, what is it about theater that you love? Like, what are the things that you really love about your dream that you've had your entire life? And then what are the things that you don't love? And then finding those things that you love and then going, where else can I find that? What are those things? What were those things that you loved?
What I loved so much, it was the people. I loved the process of rehearsal. I loved having like 18 best friends, and you have this like unshakable bond for years to come.
Anyone who's done theater, you know that feeling. You know, being in the crew, going to Denny's after the show,
living it up. In college, we were popping off at Applebee's after the show every week. No free promo.
Applebee's slide in.
Sponsor. But no, I loved the people. I loved doing cool things with cool people, which is also the crux of Create.Repeat now. But I loved that. I loved imagining. I loved creating new worlds. And when I talk about what I love about theater now, it's so reflectant of what I do now. And I think it's so beautiful because it really is the evolution, right? I don't believe I'm not a storyteller anymore. I'm still out here acting. Right. I feel like I'm clocking more hours than Patti LuPone sometimes. It's like I'm still out here dancing and and like loving life. And I get emotional about it because sometimes people are like, do you miss acting? Like, do you miss being on stage? And I'm like, I'm filling my needs. Like I feel so fulfilled in inspiring other people, but storytelling through any other way I can. Like evolving is not, and I think the confusing part, it's not, you're not dead. You don't die. You are becoming the like refined version of yourself. And I think there's something so beautiful, like again, changing your perspective in the pivot. And like, if you can pivot to something that brings you equal or more joy, it is worth the pivot, right? What do you say?
There's power in the pivot. If you're just holding on to something as hard as you can, like waves come and go. Things are happening. Sometimes it's a global pandemic. Sometimes it's just, I don't know, you're not cut out for it, or it's just not the right time for you. And I think if you're trying to force something too much, all these other opportunities are going to pass you by. And I think that's like what we found. I think what was really interesting is how it puts you into being an entrepreneur and getting into business and starting a company. That to me was something that I always knew that you've had. You've always been entrepreneurial, even like in your art. You've always been one to be the like actor / director, trying to tell people, organizing people what to do.
Exactly. And that I laugh because by senior year in a BFA for theater, like I was going toe to toe with the director. I was telling the director my opinions. And and now looking back, I'm like, I was always an entrepreneur. And like,
I would say one of the things you didn't like about acting is being told what to do, which is it's probably the biggest element of being an actor.
Thing, exactly.
Yeah, but that led you to creating Season of Sunday, which is your mental health clothing brand.
Yes.
But Make More of What You Want to See.
Make More of What You Want to See was my first shirt ever. I was super inspired. There was a butterfly on this shirt. I was super into like distressed vintage clothes at the time. So I was using razor blades, cutting my little fingers up, but like creating these micro tears in t-shirts and washing them 100 times and trying to make like the softest, comfiest, most amazing shirt, which I think I did.
We still wear the shirt. Yeah, it's a great shirt.
It's incredible, but Make More of What You Want to See. It came to because with a pivot, like there's so much power in a pivot. There's so much beauty, but it is to your mental health, the sadness, the isolation, and just like honestly, the utter heartbreak that comes with evolution is, I think, one of the most painful things, especially when it has to do with your identity. And I think when it comes to identity and passion, having to die to a version of yourself in regards to that it does feel like life or death. It feels so painful. And I definitely, that shirt was something that hit off. Like I was literally like selling them through DMs on my Instagram, and
it's just like a friends and family thing.
It was just a friends and family thing. But raising my goal though, because I do feel like in 2020, like our mental health really did come to a head, right?
For sure. Yeah.
And I felt like starting a company that raised awareness about mental health was my passion. And it was part of like, honestly, like a love letter to you, because you were coming off some really, really dark things.
Definitely. And I think like it was just interesting in that moment of doing the only thing that you kind of knew how to express yourself in the moment. Like I think like even when you made the shirt, you just made it. You just went to like one of those like print on demand websites, made the Make More of What You Want to See, took some photos of it and put it out there. And so, does anybody want this? And you sold a lot for just like our family and friends. Like people really supported you. And I thought that was amazing, but it led you to then building out this company that you've had for a couple years now.
Yeah.
And really trying to inspire people. This
is the 4th year.
Yeah, wow.
The 4th year. And again, like the doors that have come, the doors that have opened, the partnerships, the collaborations, like we've really created such a cool community. And the conversations that we've had, and like anytime I feel like maybe this is dumb and like maybe people don't like it anymore, like the most incredible DMs come through, and the amount, like the impact we've had, and like having like family friends wear the t-shirts everywhere and send me pictures on their vacations and saying like, hey, like I wore Take Care of Yourself today, which is this like iconic image that it's a brain and a sunshine, and having people just like be activated by that. And it really is a symbol of like, hey, you're not alone here. And if you're going through something, like I'm someone you could talk to.
Yeah. So you really did make more what you want to see. You became an entrepreneur. You're doing photo shoots where you're the director, you're the photographer, you're the model sometimes, you're doing the content, and you've created this community of people that you really like working with and people that support you. And I think that's just really cool that you stepped out and you did it.
Yeah.
And I think that is so hard to do. And sometimes it really does come out of a place where you don't have a choice to do it. You're either going to evolve or you're going to die.
Right. And to add on that too, something that I thought was really cool is like, obviously in the beginning of owning a business, like the biggest thing I learned was, again, another honest conversation where you're like, I cannot contribute to this. I cannot edit your videos for you. I will not make the designs for you. If you want to do this, you will figure out how to do it. And I think that's like one of the most abrasive little like life realizations I've had. But because of that, we literally have Create.Repeat now because of that. I literally have been able to go on and creative direct for Hudson Loft and make a new logo for them and build their brand. We've been able to do Create.Repeat. We've been able to do Season of Sunday, and I have not had to rely on anyone else but myself to run that engine. And I think becoming self-sufficient and giving yourself the power of knowledge and saying, I can learn and do anything on this planet I want.
Yeah, with the internet nowadays, there isn't an excuse.
There's no excuse.
You taught yourself through TikToks and YouTube and Canva. I remember telling you about Canva because I was a creative director at the time designing, and I used the Adobe suite, and I hated Canva. People wanted me to use Canva, and I was like, this isn't for designers. I hate this program. And then when you're asking me about graphic design, I'm like, wait, that might be perfect for you. And now you're a wizard at it. You're
and
great.
I freaking love it.
Yeah.
It's given me the best tools to literally create the life I want.
Yeah, exactly. So make more of what you want to see. All right, I'm going to go off on my first one.
Yeah, what's your favorite one?
My favorite one, and is it my favorite one or is it my least favorite one? Because it just hits me deep in my heart. But it's just, your addiction to comfort is holding you back.
Drop the mic.
I dropped the mic, but I don't want to break it. This isn't my mic. But your addiction to comfort is holding you back. I'm a homebody. Like I can talk about this literally. I like to be comfortable.
Yeah.
I really like to find my peace. I like to recharge. I'm very much like an extroverted introvert. I really like that comfortability. And I think when 2020 hit, also coming from that place, we were all of a sudden stuck in our homes, and it was a really scary time. And, and obviously we didn't have it as bad as some people. And yet we were still going through it and not well. And I think like just looking for that comfort as a protection, that's something that I've been trying to shed lately. And I think us coming out here and doing this podcast, we're in downtown Los Angeles right now. It is not comfortable in DTLA, let me tell you that. Us coming out here and doing this, recording this, getting back in front of the camera is very uncomfortable for me. I'm very uncomfortable. Being honest, I'm uncomfortable, but that to me is something that I'm trying to chase now.
I love that.
Something that in my past, if I had a whole career on the internet. My first job right out of college, I worked at BuzzFeed as a video producer. And within 2 years, I was internet famous. I had a following. I was getting recognized everywhere I went.
Literally everywhere you were getting recognized.
And
we were getting chased at Disneyland.
Yeah. And it was one of those things where all of a sudden it's like, look, all my dreams are coming true. This is amazing. Yeah. But then I also just wasn't prepared for that whatsoever. And
because it literally happened overnight.
Yeah, it did.
Following was like when you woke up in the morning.
And it was a huge, huge blessing. I had some amazing opportunities through that.
1,000,000%.
But I think, and when you're riding the wave and you're kind of going up, you feel a little invincible, and it becomes easier to start taking bigger swings, trying to, go, I think I'm going to try this now. When you start having success, you're like, I can do anything, and you start doing it. I think what's been tough is then once I wrapped up my time at BuzzFeed and I went and I tried out, I wanted to sell a television show. That was my goal. I wanted to sell a television show with my two writing partners. And we took it out and we had a lot of promise, and there was opportunities on the page where we were like getting a lot of different meetings and deals, and it was really exciting. And I really thought I was going to do it.
Also, right after you left BuzzFeed, you got an opportunity to be on your favorite show of all. You were literally on Arrested Development.
Yeah.
So it was like the dopamine.
It was the day, like 20 minutes before my going away party, I got the call that I was going to be in Arrested Development opposite Jason Bateman in a scene. And it felt like
that doesn't happen to people.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I for sure was feeling like I had the Midas touch.
Because you did.
I'm like, it's happening.
Yes. No, and again, as someone who wanted to be an actor, I'm like, that's not normal.
Yeah.
Okay. That was amazing.
Yeah. And I had a bunch of other opportunities and it was amazing.
So dopamine was just like, pop, 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 pop. Like you were going off.
Yeah. And I think there's something about like when you're on your own path and you're making something, like you have to buy in and believe in yourself or else no one else will. Right.
100%.
So you have to. But I think like I was getting a little carried away with that, almost as like a defense mechanism, because like when you're writing that way, it's awesome gaining popularity, but it's also the loneliest I'd ever been. You know, all of a sudden, like I couldn't talk to family members without them bringing it up. I couldn't talk with friends. Sometimes, honestly, you and I, it was like a tough time for us.
Because also you're like losing relatability. Like we're not in the trenches trying to make it
anymore. Or no one
anymore.
can relate with me.
Right, no, you made it.
Yeah.
So all of us are just like, oh, okay, sick. Like you got it like that.
Yeah,
awesome.
and it's like, but no, I don't. I'm just like in this next phase and I'm with a bunch of people who they're trying to get to a different phase. It's a really weird, isolating, lonely thing. And so once it's starting to decline and basically 2020 hits and my couple deals fell through, the industry is completely shut down. I'm just like, I'm giving up. It's done. It's over. I had to call my writing partner and tell him. I didn't call him. I texted him, to be honest. I just texted him that I can't do this anymore. I can't take rejection. And it was like really hard for me to do and cowardly to just text it. I did the same thing with my representation. I was done.
But in your defense though, too, I wouldn't even use the word cowardly because I'd never seen this version of you in that time. I had never seen, again, you were someone who was so full of life. You obviously, when you come home and you're not on camera, like you're like sweet version of you, but this was a deeply, deeply sad person. I don't even, your cognitive skills weren't even you could not have called someone and like the people pleasing in you. Like I had just never seen anything like it before.
Yeah. So it was just like a tough time. And then just through the next couple years, I was just taking jobs, working for like corporate companies where I was the only creative person and I was just kind of going crazy and hating my life with that too. And but as I was doing that, I was building up my comfort. I stopped sharing online. I stopped going out after once the lockdown. I stopped showing myself more. I was just kind of embarrassed because I think everybody, in my mind, I built up this idea that everybody had this expectation for myself. When you see yourself like growing, you see how people change around you. I had family come out of the woodwork. I had people, old, bullies and everybody come out of the woodwork, and all of a sudden saying how much they love you. But then the second that you stop showing your face, those texts and those messages, they don't come anymore. And so I think I was starting to self-sabotage by purposely not showing myself, not putting myself out there anymore, and then reaffirming myself that no one cares about me. Right. Even though that wasn't true, but like I was telling myself that.
Yeah.
And so I started to build this like sense of comfort in my own world, and I didn't ever want to leave that world. And that really hindered my art. It hindered my craft, and I missed opportunities because of that. And but I don't want to say it was all bad. I really needed that time to heal. therapy big time. I was reconnecting relationships with family. I was just walking through and realizing like, what is it I want to do? The same way that we talked about your pivot, what are the things you like? I did the same exact exercise and I was looking at like, what do I want to be? What is the message I want to do? How can I do this from the soul of me and not from the ego of me? And that's a really difficult thing to balance. And I still struggle with it. I had anxiety all leading up to us shooting here that it would be my ego would take over. And it was never huge. It's just like that. It's the voice in my head telling me like, don't get your head too big. Don't do that.
Well, also too, it's like someone like your levels of dopamine were like uncharted for so long. And they're really like your brain chemistry was forever changed because of BuzzFeed, right?
Yeah. You're literally, your brain is rewired that I am looking for, if I make something that doesn't have at least 1 million views, it's a failure. And it is every week. My goal was to make
because you had to make how many videos a month?
I had to make 6 videos a month. And this is older YouTube where the videos were like 5 minutes and under.
Right.
But still, it was 6 videos a month. Plus with my partner, I had to be in his videos and then you're in every kind of video. It was an amazing, awesome, fun job. I want to get that out there. It was the best. I miss it to this day. I loved that. I loved the people that I worked with. But when you're chasing the views, you're chasing the likes, you're chasing this external validation from everybody, and then you're getting rewarded by it because people are coming up to you and they're telling you how much they love you and they're taking pictures with you, and in your people in your life are doing the same exact thing. Once that goes away, once the content stops, once you get burnt out on that and you're not getting that, it turns into something completely different in your brain.
And also, I feel like some things that we've talked about before, like some of your favorite videos that you poured your heart and soul into were these considered flops. And the ones that were like a sneeze on a Wednesday, you were like, sick, it has 6 million views, and now I'm stuck in a brunch trope for the next 9 months. Can you explain a little bit of that and how that maybe like also like how that affects your art, right?
Yeah.
Then are you creating stuff where you're like, I'm not even proud of this. I don't want to make this kind of stuff.
Totally. Like, who cares if you're making a video that has millions of views, but you're kind of ashamed to be that person, or you're not being honest with yourself. You're just playing a character. There was my favorite video still to this day is this sketch that I did about the kid who was benched for Air Bud. That was just like my like dream pitch that I want to. It was like kind of a meme. I'm like, okay, can we just bring this to life? Can we do this in a Friday Night Lights style?
Right. And this was like a cinematic moment.
Yeah. I wanted to do this well. I wanted to really do this. So I pitched it in my meeting with my manager, and everybody laughed at it. But my manager was worried that it wasn't necessarily viral. It was very niche. You had to see Air Bud. You had to watch through this like dramatic sketch. Cause that was the other thing is like Justin and I, Justin was my writing partner. We were going to play it 100% serious over a stupid thing. But basically I got the green light to do it. But the catch was I still had to make 6 videos that month. And so Justin and I got together and we're like, how are we going to do this? I put all of my budget in for the month into the Air Bud video. I was using all my resources. I was pulling favors from friends to help come and shoot for us. And like, that was my main focus. And the 6 videos that we had to do, we were just like, let's make 6 videos in a day, whatever, like just whatever we want to do. And so we ended up shooting a bunch of these videos, one of them being this like stupid video about 2 guys going to brunch for the first time. And the whole concept of it is
iconic.
The whole concept of it is they don't know what brunch is. The second they drink a mimosa, they turn into these like
divas.
These like divas, fancy characters. Like I had a purple top hat. That should tell you all you need to know. Like a velvet purple top hat. And we did those videos, we put them away, and then we went and did the Air Bud thing. And I actually was getting so stressed out over this Air Bud idea that I got the worst migraine out of my entire life, that I lost sight and I had to go to the hospital. And they told me I couldn't go to work for a few days, and I was like out of commission. I put that much effort into it. I was really, really just like hoping that this is going to be the thing. This is like what SNL is going to see this. And Judd Apatow is going to see this. And this is going to be the thing that gets me on the map. And not to mention, it was also an idea that I really loved. It made me laugh. And I liked that. It was the weirdest thing because when I was out of commission, our videos came out, the Air Bud video came out and it bombed. It had like 200,000 views in a week. And that was a bomb for us. It wasn't good.
Wow.
And everything that, all the fears that like my manager had and people that were iffy about it, they were correct. And then I had this video, the brunch video, had 15 million views in a week. And that was the video that every single person I knew was sharing on their Facebook. And that's what people were remembering me from.
Of
and that's what everybody, and don't get me wrong, I love that video. I think it's so silly. We made like 6 more.
It's so silly.
And it was so fun, but it was like a really weird lesson to realize like the thing that I put all of my effort into was the thing that flopped. But at the end of the day, I'm still so proud of that. And every once in a while, when someone talks to me about that video, I feel so good about that. I had a couple coworkers like write me recently about this, just being like, hey, that's still like my favorite BuzzFeed video. Like I still talk about it. And that really makes me feel good because I felt like it was a complete flop. I felt like nobody liked it. And I was ashamed to do that because I just failed in public. And that's kind of like what I kind of want to get to about this addiction to comfort is holding you back. To me, it's like I'm trying to get rid of that fear of failure. And I have been I've been removing myself from any bit of failure, specifically public failure. That's why I stopped posting. That's why I stopped reaching out and trying to be a part of other creative projects and collaborating with more people because I was so afraid of failing, but failing in public. And so for me right now, stepping out and doing this, I know it's stupid. It's up here for me. And I'm trying to remove all that comfort, step out and be okay with failing in public because you only learn from your strikeouts and your home runs. Getting a single or a double, that's great, but you don't learn much from that. And I'm trying to embrace failing in public. And so that's me breaking through the confines of being comfortable and really coming out here and hopefully inspiring someone else to do that, even though I know I'm on a small scale here. But I really
You 100% are. I feel like you telling the truth and being honest is the most powerful thing you can do. And I think every creative is afraid.
Yeah. I think like what's really interesting too with Create.Repeat is, and we were kind of touching on this, that it's an anonymous account. I purposely didn't.
You're like, that's on purpose.
It's on purpose.
If it doesn't work, sick, amazing.
I didn't share anything from Create.Repeat on my own personal Instagram account for the first year. I didn't want anyone to know that. I didn't want anyone's opinions or anything to cloud myself. Like I said, it was a visual journal that I was putting out there. And obviously we were hoping that people that are like-minded, that could really use this content, that they would find it. But you just never know. And I was definitely afraid. And so even like showing up on the Instagram page and being like, hey, this is who's behind it. That's a scary thing. And so I'm trying to remove that comfort and just move forward.
I love that.
So that's what we're doing. We're walking it. We walk it like we talk it.
Great song. My second favorite one is don't wait for inspiration to strike, just start. And I feel like this one's quick. This is my method for all madness to do with creativity. This is to do with Create.Repeat, Season of Sunday, Hudson Loft, any brand that I have ever touched. Anything I've ever created. You want to move faster than your fear. You want to move faster than any rational train of thought, and you want to move faster than anybody's opinion around you. And if you can do that and just make the damn shirt, make the damn movie, do what you can do faster than your little brain tells you to stop. And I think I have created some things I'm so proud of because I did not let me get in the way.
It's something too that like you and I, being a married couple, having multiple businesses, working on Create.Repeat together. Don't wait for inspiration to strike, just start. sometimes like that's how you start the inspiration, right? Is like you got to push the car to get the engine going, and you're doing that. And
100%.
so there is sometimes when either you or me has that little twinkle in our eye where we're starting to think of an idea.
Yep.
We've really worked on encouraging each other to drop whatever and just go and do it. Activate. That's our favorite word, is activate. Just go activate. And so that's, don't wait for inspiration to strike. Just start. It's that simple. Just start.
Just start.
We just started Create.Repeat. Like we just did it.
Did it.
And then it started to become a thing, and you can figure that out later. We're just starting this podcast. Just starting it.
Did we have
We're
to
putting
like,
a lot of effort into it. I'm not going to lie.
There's some professional cameras and some humans and some mics, and it's a gag, and we worried on what to wear. But it's like we're moving faster than those doubts and those fears.
Yeah.
I just wanted to keep that one short and sweet.
I think that's a great one to keep short and sweet.
Thank you.
All right, my next one is find peace in being misunderstood. So this goes into the evolve or die, right? Like when you're evolving, to me, what that means is it's very much that journey from A to B. It's that middle point. And that point is when you're going to be the most misunderstood, especially as a creative person, especially as an artist. If you're seeking out validation from other people with your ideas in the beginning and you're not getting it, and that's discouraging you from continuing to create, you're doing it wrong. You need to find the peace in being misunderstood in that moment. People will understand it. And it might not be the people that you're hoping would, but if you're making something that you truly believe in and it rings true to you and you're passionate about it, you will find the audience. And I think what the evolution for me in this is the finding peace in that. I think it's really hard, especially with the internet background, especially being a people pleaser and getting the validation of the likes and the comments and hiding behind the scenes, like finding peace in being misunderstood. Ever since we're talking about this idea and like posted that online, we've really been trying to make that an active practice. And being okay with it and knowing that like, as long as it's through our filter and we like it and we're down with it, that's okay. And that's all that matters. And it's hard. It's hard. And also like something I want to point out too, half the time when we write these, like we co-write these, we switch off on them. I don't believe it personally, probably 60% of the time.
You don't have to believe it. You just have to like it, right?
It's the hard truth. It's the hard truth of find peace in being misunderstood. When we made that first graphic for it, it was, and I'm sure it's not like we created that saying. I just want to put that out there too. I'm sure someone has said that or an iteration of that before, but it's when it struck us in that moment. And we've been working on that idea since we've posted that and working on finding the peace in it and evolving in peace and being misunderstood. And it's really interesting too, because I think our favorite artists growing up, they're all misunderstood people. The best artists are misunderstood. But that's what being an artist is you're expressing yourself, right?
100%. That's why I feel like being a creative or any kind of artist, that's why we call it a divine calling.
Yeah.
The 1% of humans are going to get the gratification and the affirmations of being one of the greats, right?
And something about like the creative process too, that I'm sure if you're any kind of creative person and you make something, you can relate to this, but like the people who consume your art or see it, they just see the final product. And it's rare that when you have the final product, that's what you're looking at. You're looking at your journey that got you there. You're thinking about the whole thing. So when I was in film school, right, it was about the entire journey of building up there all the way up until the stress of getting to the premiere of it, burning DVDs, getting them out there. Like that's what's on my mind. Or at the premiere, I'm thinking about the next projects. It's not about that. And I really do believe that something is yours until you put it out into the world. And so I've always kind of been this way with videos and stuff. I started on YouTube when I was like 13 years old, like early days of YouTube. And I would always watch my stuff 50, 60 times before I would release it, because when you release something to the public, then they decide what it is. They decide what's funny. The weirdest thing about like we were making a comedy short film my senior year, and this was like one of the first times I ever experienced this, where we had this joke that was our favorite joke in the film. We were just ready for it to go. We're just so excited for everybody to hear this joke. And we're watching it in the premiere night, and 2 lines before, everybody busts up laughing at this thing. And it wasn't a joke. No, it's not a no. It's just like a.
But did they miss your like big funny line?
No, they heard it, but it wasn't as it didn't hit. But the joke, but the line 2 or 3 lines before was a bigger laugh than we maybe could have hoped for. That was a weird thing when you're going, we didn't intentionally make that a joke, but the audience found that extremely funny. And then the thing that we were really proud of and excited for, that's more of like a callback or just like a little punch up cherry on top joke. And that's a weird thing when you put out something and it's going to be your favorite. I'm sure like a musician, the most popular song on the album is not their favorite song. Sometimes it's that song where, you know, it's the slow acoustic song that's this 12th track on the album, and that's their favorite song. And it's like it's a weird thing when you're putting art or any kind of creation out into the world and realizing that like it isn't going to, if it's going to work, it might not work in the way you think. And that's kind of going back to the brunch video and the Air Bud video. It's like the brunch one hit, and we were thinking everybody's going to love the Air Bud one, but yeah,
they did not.
It's a weird thing. So I'm really finding that peace in being misunderstood. It's okay. You don't have to understand me on my journey. You don't. We can find common ground on other things. When it comes to the creative stuff, there's a method to my madness. And if you have any person that is trying to give you an opinion about your creative process or tell you that you're wrong, or you should do it this way or that way, no one knows what they're talking about. We don't know what we're talking about. We're just giving you our story and version of it. That person is just trying to do their best and give you their story, but you have to just trust your gut and go straight forward, put your blinders on, and just make the thing that you want to make.
I love that.
So evolving for me is finding peace in that. Another uncomfortable thing. My whole thing's just about being uncomfortable.
He's so uncomfortable.
Like I said, I am a homebody. I like being comfortable.
He asked for a recliner for his birthday this year.
That was like maturity, not like
a lazy boy, like a big leather comfortable chair. Like I was like, do we want to go on a trip? Are we trying to pop a bottle? And it's like, no, I need a chair in my office. That's what we're dealing with.
I wanted like the dad lazy boy chair. That's what I did, but that's where I'm at in life. And I'm proud of that. And I don't regret it.
I don't regret it for you. I'd like to get a second for me to sit there too.
Yeah. So we're like big lazy boy people now.
Maybe they could sponsor.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be fun? And then we do the podcast from Lazy Boys.
Your addiction to comfort is holding you back. Brought to you by Lazy Boy. Great. All right. Let's go to your next one.
What's my next one? Ooh. Confidence is a practice.
Sheesh.
Shoo. Confidence is a practice. This isn't glamorous, right? I think confidence as a practice comes from a few things for me. Simply anything you do with like things you assume come easy to some don't. They're just more practiced in it than you are. I think confidence and having this sense of self-belief is, for me, I'm like, I'm acting as though I'm really confident in some situations that I'm second guessing myself. I'm wondering if I look okay. I'm like, oh, does that person think I'm weird? Did I talk too much? Did I say too much? And it's like, you really just have to brush it off your shoulder. And it kind of like goes again, before like my big pivot moment, I worked at a modeling agency for 3 years. I worked as an agent. I produced photo shoots. I made content. I worked with some of the most beautiful people in the world, went on trips, got to do runway shows and produce things. And I feel like that's where I got like my master's in Los Angeles. It was some of the best times. And recently this year, I got to go to Miami Swim Week, and I got to produce a bunch of content for some amazing human beings and brands. And Zach called me halfway through the trip and I was just like buzzing. I'm sitting in the bathroom for my like 2 minutes of alone time on a 20-hour workday. And he's like, how are you doing? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot. I forgot how electrifying these human beings are. Like people, when you are surrounded by people who give off this just like aura of self-confidence, self-belief, and they're like so into what they're doing. I think there's an old version of me that would have been very intimidated by it. It would have shut me down. But I feel like being 30 is the best thing that ever happened to me. And there's this new energy of like, letting people's confidence and self-belief activate me. And I really felt like this trip was like, it was my canon moment.
Right. Like someone's confidence doesn't mean that you can't have your own confidence.
Right.
Right. Like that's not a dig at you if someone's confident. Where I think sometimes it's when someone's super confident, it's easy to just like shrink down and hide in your shell.
No, but use it as a calling, right? Like let people's confidence, let people's self-belief, let people's greatness rub off on you. Get as close as you can to them. Like I like it's a heater.
But also like what I think is great about that too is that like it's always kind of a weird thing when you know a really confident person and then you just have a one-on-one moment with them and then they show you all their doubts and then you realize that like, oh wow, everybody deals with self-doubt. Yeah. Everybody does that. The hottest person in the world is still like thinking about maybe one eyebrow hair is too long. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know hot people problems like that. But
you're hot.
Thank you. I was just searching for that. But yeah, like it's a weird thing, but knowing that like you have to practice it. So if you're a creative, if you're an artist and you're choosing this life and you want to be that, know that like it's not just overnight where you feel better. You have to actively choose to keep being an artist and putting yourself out there and having that confidence. And pretty soon it will come at least easier to you. I was going to say naturally, but it'll be easier for you to have that confidence.
And it's like another thing, again, confidence is a practice, but so is creating and repeating. That is a practice. And I think we think that you're like born with this or you're not. Like it is not, the cookie doesn't go to the most talented person. It goes to the most hungry person. Yeah. And I think if you are hungry to activate and keep practicing again, like practicing posting every single day. Again, you did not post a single thing on Instagram, I think for 4 years? Close to that. But it Create.Repeat, when we started that, you committed yourself to growing something, pushing yourself to practice, creating every single day. Mm-hmm. And I think when you teach yourself that skill, it becomes a reflex, right?
Right. I mean, you just kind of said it. It's like confidence as a practice is basically Create.Repeat. Create being the confidence that you need to create, practice being the repetition of it, doing it again. I think that's the thing that we've really learned through this is that you have to just keep doing it. You can't hold these ideas too precious. It's not that deep.
Shoot or
some
shoot.
Of these things. Shoot or shoot. You got to get your shots up. And I think that is what we've learned through this. But the practice of it, the repeat, is what is so important in the Create.Repeat. Yeah. So
I felt like when I said shoot or shoot, the painting of Kobe winked at me.
There's a painting of Kobe that you can't see behind us for copyright reasons.
He's out there laughing at us.
But yeah, confidence is a practice. Think about that one. Just think about it. Marinate on it a little bit. Okay, the last one I have is let go or get dragged.
Oof.
I think this is an ancient saying. I'm like not kidding. Like
this is an ancient proverb for sure.
Fact check me in the comments. I did not create let go or get dragged. Let go or get dragged. I did not write that. I was inspired by that. But man, let go or get dragged. The more and more I think about it, there's power in letting go. You know, it's that idea of like, if you hold on to something too tight, you're going to destroy it and you're going to just break it. I got a quick story about that Arrested Development when I got that job.
Let it out.
So when I booked Arrested Development, it was my favorite television show of all time.
And you made me watch it.
Yeah, I was like, you need to watch this entire show.
I think I watched that like sophomore year of college.
Yeah, it was like one of those
years
things,
ago.
It was one of those things like we can't be together unless you've watched this because you'll understand an element of me.
100%.
This is comedy firing on all cylinders for me.
A million.
And so I get the call that I'm going to be in a scene with Jason Bateman, and I'm kind of freaking out. This is crazy. And this
I think all of us were freaking out. This was like earth-shattering news.
Yeah, and this is the Netflix revival of Arrested Development. So like we're not used to having this show. It's a special thing as well. And so I book the job, the casting. It was the greatest audition I've ever given, and it was for Allison Jones, who is a legendary casting director. Literally the only casting director I know by name is Allison Jones. She has done everything from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Found Carlton,
she's an icon,
to all of the Seth Rogen movies, everything. Any comedy, she has cast it. I guarantee you. Look for her name in the credits. I got to be one-on-one with her in her office, and to be honest, I nailed it.
Was she so nice?
She
was she warm? What was that experience?
Yeah, no, she was cool and she was warm. I was intimidated going in, but
you were nervous going in, but did she like give off an aura that you're like, all is fine, I can be myself?
No, but she was just like, she knows what she's doing. But I just remember like halfway through the audition, she like stopped rolling the camera and she's like, we're good. And that definitely freaked me out. I was like, was this good or bad?
Yeah, you're like,
she's like, oh no. And she like told us right there, like, yeah, you guys are perfect for it. And so
Wow.
that was a crazy thing. And once again, I was like riding high.
Again, that also like never happens.
Yeah, so it was my first audition.
This isn't right. Do not take note of this. This is like once in a lifetime energy.
Yeah,
here.
I'm very well aware that this was crazy. But the day comes, I get to set. My call time was at like 7 a.m. It's in Culver City. We drive there. I immediately get rushed into hair and makeup and wardrobe. I bump shoulders with Michael Cera. Holy crap, this is real. This is happening. They make me shave off my stubble. I hated that because I felt like a baby and I have a bit of a weak chin. And so it's just like, oh my gosh. So I'm like self-conscious about this. I didn't get my script until 10 p.m. that night. And so it's 7 a.m. So that whole night, I barely slept because I was just reading over my like 3 or 4 lines. I was just like practicing and rehearsing and just making sure I was word perfect on it.
Right.
Once I was in costume and stuff, they put me back in my trailer. It was about 8 a.m. And they're like, we'll come to you. And it's just hour after hour after hours passing.
All day, huh?
Yeah. And I'm just practicing my lines, running my lines, making sure I'm getting it good. I'm imagining like, what would this be like? All this stuff. I'm so focused on it. I'm getting mad at myself if I miss up a word because I want to be word perfect.
Did we have 3 lines? Like it was
like 4 lines. Yeah.
Okay.
But the biggest thing is I had the opening line. Okay.
Ooh.
I had the opening line for this scene, and that's always tough.
And like you hear like action sound rolling, like it's like that's terrifying.
And you're like, okay, whatever. So we get to set. I meet Jason Bateman, and he is in the full costume. So it's like how I have seen him a million times, and it is surreal and bizarre, and he's everything that you want him to be.
Oh.
He's right there looking at you, and he's giving you the look, and you're like, oh, this is Jason Bateman. I've never had someone look me in the eyes more than he has. Like even us on our wedding, like he looked me harder in the eyes.
Okay.
I almost proposed. But so we didn't have much time to rehearse. The director, we were late. Obviously, it was now 3 p.m. I had just waited all this time, and the scene was relatively new, and Jason hadn't read it yet. Can I call him Jason now?
Oh, I suppose.
Okay, we'll just do it for the sake of this podcast.
He won't see this. It's okay.
He won't see it.
Or he might.
Come on the pod. We'll do a home and home with Smartless. But he's like, let's just roll. And he's like trying to figure out the lines. He's fumbling through the sides. And he's like, let's just do a take. And we do the take. And I get up there and I nail my first line. And then he just like, and he stumbles. He doesn't know what he's doing. And he's fumbling around. He's like, I'm sorry. And it was really weird. He was kind of bad.
Okay.
And it was weird to witness this. And it was one of those moments where I'm like, oh, wow, the star doesn't know his lines. I know my lines. I've been practicing them for 16 hours straight. Granted, I only had 3 or 4. I'm probably being generous by saying 4. It was probably 3.
It was 3.
You can look it up. Please don't. But
we'll tag in below.
So he was starting to freak out, but then he had this moment where he stopped himself. He called the director over and he asked him a few questions about his character. And the character, he was like, okay, I got this. Great. He took like a deep breath and was like, okay, let's go. I come in and the whole scene is he's in this like Google Maps type car that has to like map the area. I don't even remember why his character was in it. But I'm the person who works for this Google type company, and I come and I bang on the window and he rolls down the window and we have this like exchange. And then 2 other of my like friends come in and we're like trying to track down this car. That's the storyline. I go in there, I bang on the window, and I witnessed right in front of my face him go from being this like confused actor to Michael Bluth. And it is him. And he nails it. And he's improvising in his stuff. And he's doing this whole Jason Bateman thing. He locked in. And it was so much that I lost track of what I was doing. I forgot my line. And I just go, I am so sorry. And he just goes, his face, he's like, and he goes, should we use that take or should we go for another? And like the crew laughed.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, dude. And in my head, I'm like, I just said the F word right to his face. We're inches away. And the look on his face was pure shock. And I'm like, dude, he's the star of the show. He's the reason why we're all here.
I'm sweating thinking about this. Also, like knowing anything about that. This is not your style.
That was the worst day of my life.
Oh my gosh. My palms are like
I had
wet.
3 or 4 lines and I messed up.
The first one.
And I messed up and I made a huge deal over it. And said that. And then from that moment, I was in my head and we do another take and I mess up again. I can't shake it. I have the yips.
Oh no.
And he's like, no, it's totally fine. And I'm trying to figure this out. And I'm like, I start to have like an internal clock going. And from what I thought was like, this is going to be my big break to I'm never going to work in Hollywood again. Like that's literally the polar opposite sides of my brain going. And I kept fumbling over the line and I was trying to figure it out. And I finally got some takes and I was just so unhappy with it. And Jason Bateman, like, even though we like made that crack, he was super nice with me. He was like trying to play with me and like we're improvising and stuff. And I was still just like out of my element. But I think I tell that story because I learned a really valuable lesson in there. And not just as being an actor, but just in life itself.
Yeah.
Jason Bateman was the pro to when he wasn't secure in that. He took a moment to call timeout, ask the questions, take a deep breath, have the confidence in himself, and to go on. My script sides were crinkled by how I was studying them verbatim, and I studied them so hard that I forgot them and I got stuck on them. And I couldn't let go of that me messing up. I was so in my head. And for the rest of that time, that it was like I didn't enjoy my time anymore. I was really hard on myself, and I'm talking for months.
I know.
And I mean, still.
I know.
It was one of those things where I was holding on to so deep in this preparation that I wasn't ready for when something changed. So when Jason Bateman was all of a sudden not good in it, I wasn't prepared for that. I was expecting him to be good. It kind of threw me off. And then by the time that he finally was able to perform and he nailed it,
you weren't ready to play. Like you weren't open to receive. You were like, this is how this is going to go. But you forgot it was a conversation.
Yeah. And I forgot the whole reason why I'm there.
Right.
I'm here to make a comedy. I'm here to have fun. And I was just in my head about it. And I couldn't let it go. And I did get dragged by myself.
Right.
And I think it wasn't as bad. I'm sure if you asked anybody who was there, obviously they wouldn't remember like a day player coming in and messing up their line. But it was the worst. It was my worst fear. Like you're like, you don't like when you're looking someone dead in the eyes that you have watched hundreds and hundreds of times and you're going,
I know.
That's Jason Bateman.
It's
but then
like
you go, that's
distracting.
Michael Bluth. That's the character. And like,
it was your favorite show ever.
Yeah.
Have some grace on yourself.
I can laugh about it now, but there was a section where I was just like mortified about it. And then they cut a part of it too. So it then was even shorter than the 3 or 4 lines. Like it was just, but it was a really good learning lesson of just seeing how obviously it's a little different from him because he's the star of the show, but he was able to just let go and move on from that.
Course.
And I wasn't able to do that in that situation. And so I really am trying to do that. And I remind myself of that story to just show some growth that I've had. And I've had some other experiences since then that I walked up to the plate and I hit, and it was great. But that was something
And you've
there.
been in therapy.
Yeah, that helps.
Therapy helps.
Yeah, I've talked about that with him. He's like, "What? Can we get back to your like?" He's like, "You keep bringing up this story about Jason Bateman." I'm like,
You're
"It's
like,
just
you'll
if you weren't
never
there, man, you don't get it." But yeah, so let go or get dragged. Or one of my favorite things from Star Wars is let the past die. And I think there's something about that. And even when we say history repeats, create the future. That's been the slogan and tagline for Create Repeat. And we've said it before. Generations have done it before, over and over again, and it's going to continue to keep happening. But if you see something and you want to do it, you can take it in either way. You can take it as an inspiration from the past to create the future, or you can take it from, if you want this cycle to stop, you got to create the new way of doing it. And so that to me is like what the let go or get dragged or the evolve or die. All of this is that very same thing of you have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to push through. You're the only one who's going to do it, or you're just going to stay there, stay comfortable. But if you stay on your couch every day for 100 days, your body is going to hate you. And so even from a physical sense, you just got to get out of your way and do it. And so that's what this theme has been for us. And this is the practice that we're doing. Confidence is a practice. We are practicing right now. So thank you. We're trying to, if we're failing in public right now.
We're having so much fun.
If we're failing publicly.
We're doing it together.
That's good. That's good.
We're married and you're stuck with me.
Yes. Legally obliged to do that. It's great. Highly recommend marrying your best friend. It's great. Okay. I think that's good for this first episode.
Yeah. Do we need a better wrap up?
Why don't we talk to each other?
Oh.
I think that's good for the first episode. I think
there's good nuggets.
Yeah,
how long did we yap for?
I don't know. Well, you guys can let us know.
Hours? 1 hour? 2?
Okay, great. We're gonna continue to do this, and with this podcast, we're gonna try different things, and we just thank you guys for watching and listening. If you've made it this far, we have some interviews planned. We have some other fun things that we want to do. We want to introduce some really interesting people that are in our lives that we think that you would find interesting. And hopefully we can continue to inspire you guys. But if you follow us on Instagram or anything, we appreciate your support so much. It's genuinely helped Morgan and I in more ways than you can imagine. So
thank you.
Thank you for watching. And please just, keep following along. Keep doing it.
Have grace on us.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. This has been Create Repeat.
Bye.
We know this. We know this. Disconnected, but doing what I was called to do.